Hello friends, welcome to Miss Master Tutor, and today we are going to discuss how do organisms reproduce, chapter number 6, and this is from NCERT CBSE syllabus, and today we are going to discuss about this chapter, how do organisms reproduce. So without any delay, let's get into the chapter. How do organisms reproduce? The reproduction chapter the how do reproduction process also contains many varieties in this. So here you can see it is a baby in the womb of a mother. Here it is a tiger with her cubs, and here is a flower with the parts of flower explanation, and here it is a cat, and here it is a hen with its eggs. So here what do you understand by this? There are many modes of reproduction. That is the main motto of putting this slide. Next. Yeah. Contents. What do we learn in this chapter? Reproduction. What do you mean by reproduction and importance of reproduction? Why is important? Why is reproduction very important, and why is it set to learn in this class 10th? Types of reproduction. So what are the types of reproduction? And there are two types of reproduction: sexual reproduction and the types, and the asexual reproduction. So now next, yeah, reproduction is an integrate feature of all living beings, the process by which a living being produces its own like called reproduction. So a very clear explanation about reproduction means, what is reproduction? Reproduction is a process by which a living organism tends to reproduce the offspring of its own kind in order to continue its race in this particular world on the earth. So importance of reproduction. What is the importance of reproduction? Why is it so important? Reproduction is important for each and every species, whether it is a flower or human beings or cats or a lion. Almost every organism is reproduction is very important, of course, because this is the only way to being living and continue in living age, apart from being imported from particular individual. Reproduction is also important for the whole ecosystem. Reproduction helps in maintaining a proper balance among various biocontents of the ecosystem. Moreover, reproduction also facilitates evolution because variations come through reproduction over several generations. So reproduction, what is the main motto, what is the reason why we reproduce is in order to continue our race in this generation or in this ecosystem. And what happens if we won't reproduce? The particular organism or the parent, if we don't reproduce, it dies and it extends, and no more offspring comes from her or him. Okay. Reproduction. So what are the modes of reproduction? Sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is a reproduction which we further detail. I'll explain you in the next slides, coming slides. And what is asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction is a reproduction which we don't require any parent cells or gametes, such things. So now these are the two modes of reproduction. So types of reproduction, there are two types. I know I have already told you, they are asexual and sexual. These are two types of reproductions. Here one thing you have to remember: asexual, only one parent is required and no methods of reproduction are involved. No meiosis happens during the sexual. So one thing you have to remember: in asexual, no parents are involved and no gametes are required and no methods are involved. No methods are even required because there is only one parent, and one parent tends to follow some particular processes in order to reproduce. So now coming to the sexual reproduction. Here particularly two parents should be involved with some gametes, and some sex cells are involved in order to reproduce. So yeah, which is an important step to sexual reproduction. So next, in coming slide, we'll detail in learn about this sexual and asexual reproduction. Yeah. Types of asexual reproductions. First, what these are the types of asexual reproductions. So first is fission, binary fission, multi-fission. So this is the binary fission and types of asexual reproduction. So now here fission and fission is again divided into two steps, binary fission and multi-fission. So now here you can even see these are the modes of asexual reproduction: fission, vegetative propagation, budding, and regeneration, fragmentation, spore formation. These are the various modes of asexual reproduction, and we'll learn in more detail in the next coming slides. Yes, fission. Binary fission, which we particularly see it mostly in amoeba. Most of the unicellular animals which have only one cell, prefer this method of reproduction. The organisms reproduce by binary fission, especially when the conditions are favorable. So this fission method is followed when the conditions are very favorable for it, i.e. adequate amount of food. I.e. means in the sense adequate amount of food should be required, and moisture is also plays a very important role in this fission formation. The mother cell divides into two daughter cells, and each daughter cell begins its life like a new individual. So what happens if the this is a parent cell? What the parent cell does, it tends to divide into two cells, and at last it breaks, and these two starts a new life, and this they tends to follow the new life. So yeah, it divides and makes a one parent cell divides into two cytoplasms, and the cytoplasms divides and forms into two daughter cells, and they tend to follow the new lifestyle. So now the parent cell generation increases to extent after being binary fission. What happens? It divides and forms two daughter cells, so that this particular amoeba family will continue its existence. So that is why binary fission is followed by this unicellular organism, and amoeba is very good example for reproduction by binary fission, which we all are learning, I think so, since fourth class standard. So you may have an idea. Binary fission in protozoa, it is also an example. Here I have given you a picture so that you can know it in a very clear way. And it is also an unicellular organisms which follows binary fission. Next, multi-fission in the sense it divides here in a binary fission. In first unifission, in the sense the one organism it divides into only two parts. Now here multi-fission in the sense one organism tends to divide into multi-organisms into many parts. Multi-fission when the conditions become favorable, i.e. means in the sense food and moisture and proper temperatures is available. They are If they are not available here, when the conditions became favorable, not here they have given unfavorable, it means they are not favorable for the particular organism. It means food and moisture and proper temperature are not available. This particular organism, or that particular organism, prefers multi-fission. In this sense, this particular mode of reproduction by unicellular organisms especially, the organisms develops a thick coating. In the sense it is nucleus, and here is a thick coating. It starts to develop a thick coating around itself. This is called crest. The crest helps in the organisms to tide over the bad phase. It means if the conditions are not favorable, what happens? It is more prone to death. Yes or no? So in order to protect that organism, it forms a layer like a shield in order to protect that from that particular organism from being dry. It starts to protect itself, and the nucleus divides into several nuclei, and inside it starts to divide the nucleus into many small organisms, and surrounding it by the membrane. This membrane, it is very thick, it develops thick, and inside the nucleus which is there, it starts dividing into multiple organisms, daughter nuclei, and the daughter nuclei in turn go into new individual plasmodium and endamba undergo crystal stage when they are not in a body of the prime host, i.e. humans. So what happens here is this particular nucleus which is there, it starts to multiply, and then when this is near to this outer layer, it starts to bulge out, and it forms another individual. This process is known as multifission. I hope you have understood it, and let me know in the comment section how is my explanation in this particular video, and if there are faults, let me know in the comment section, and do subscribe to my channel Master Tutor. So next, budding. Budding is common in yeast, which you all know. Yeast is a very common example unicellular organism which reproduces by budding. Hydra is an example of multicellular. In unicellular, yeast follows. In multicellular, hydra follows. This is the common method of budding in yeast. Small buds. It means you can see in potato even small birds. If you keep that bird in the soil, it grows into a. But here budding in yeast also tends to follow the same process of growing small birds on the surface, and the nuclei gets elongated, so whatever the nuclei is there, it goes and stores into the protodes of the bird. It goes and stores in the birds, and then tends to divide into two nuclei, and after a particular time the nuclei gets separated. One of the nuclei goes into the bird, so it goes and stores into the bird grows into certain extent, so the bird starts to extend. It means it starts to grow and get detached from the mother cell. What happens is that after getting detached or after separation of this nucleus, that particular bird, it starts to divide from the mother cell, and starts to grow its new life, and it means the daughter cell. Budding in hydra, yeast is a unicellular and hydra is a multicellular. A bird grows anyway on the main body of hydra. So however, the birds grow in the main body of a particular organism. The bird grows to a certain size and gets detached from the mother hydra. The development further grows into a new individual. Same thing happens, but the thing is, a hydra is a multicellular and yeast is a single cellular organism. So coming to the next slide. So what here this is a picture budding in yeast. Here you can see this is a yeast unicellular parent body. It starts to grow. Actually, it is whole, it is the body, and here you can see small dot, this is the bird. Here you can see after a particular time favorable conditions comes to it, starts to grow, and then it tends to divide itself, and it starts its new life. Next is fragmentation. Fragmentation is also another mode of nutrition of the asexual mode of reproduction. So reproduction by fragmentation is seen in flavorant algae, example Spirogyra. Spirogyra is a very common example. A fragment of Spirogyra divides into many pieces, and each develops into a new individual. So these are the fragments. This each fragment, if it divides and it starts to grow into a new hydra. So here, these are the fragments. Here it is like a bamboo stick. Yes or no? The bamboo stick, if you cut it, and if you allow it, it starts to, from here if you cut, it starts to grow again, like this it starts to grow. So these are just like, you can remember it, a bamboo stick also. That is about fragmentation. Next we are going to learn about regeneration. Regeneration is very important, which you have to learn. Regeneration, some like simple organisms can regenerate a new individual from a part which have been accidentally cut off. Planaria shows good example of reproduction by regeneration. If a planaria is cut into several pieces, each piece develops into a new individual. So here it is a planaria organism, which is very important, very common example. I only hope for regeneration. If you cut accidentally or wantedly, and if you leave it any part, whether tail, whether head, or whether the body, it starts to grow into new planaria. What a miracle! It's very magical, isn't it? But this is called as regeneration. And uh, this is the picture of original planaria, and this is imaginary diagram. And yeah, yeah, spore formation, this is the next method. And spore formation, most of fungi, bryophylla and petrodites reproduce by this method. Spores are produced in special beers called sporogramma. When spores are mature, the spore get burst and open and release them. Advantages of spore formation. So spore formation, in the sense, if you imagine a flower like a bird, if the time comes and if it has a favorable condition, it just bursts and it releases all the spores, in the sense all the seeds, and it opens it in the air so that they will dispatch from it. Advantages of, in fact, spores give certain survival benefits for organisms which reproduce by spores. Spores can be dismantled through air. I said no, through air, or if particularly if it falls in the water, it's very advantage, so that water is available, so that seed gets germinated and older, or even on some carriers like animals, so buffaloes and also dogs, so examples, which on the skin mostly these spores go fall and they tends to develop. And this helps an organisms to spread its presence to a wider geographical area. Spores can also remain dormant for a long time till favorable conditions found. Scientists consider spores are uh, pericures or seeds. So these spores, they are very patient, so that they wait for the particular time to generate. So that is the specialty of the spores. So come, next we are going to learn about spore formation of bread, which you may commonly come across. So here, spore formation in the bread, that is a very important and very good example. Vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is a very special case, as it happens in higher plants, which otherwise have a capability to reproduce sexually. When a vegetative part of a flowering plant reproduces a new plant, it is called vegetative propagation. Some examples of vegetative propagation are below. Leaf of bryophyllum. Leaf of bryophyllum have notches, in the sense that that particular new plant arises from the edge. Here you can see some seed like things, dotted things. These are the seeds where a new plant like this grows, and at the margins, it means at the edge of the leaves. If the leaf is put under the soil or the spot, saplings grow from the notch of the leaf mat. If you cut it and if you put in the soil, it grows again into a new plant, which is a very, I meant that it's very important point to be remembered about vegetative propagation. So next we are going to learn about artificial vegetative propagation. Artificial vegetative propagation, I think so you have come across in your ninth grade or even eighth. Man has used artificial vegetative propagation to grow many plants, especially hybrid vegetables, hybrid fruits, and hybrid flowers. This has enabled farmers and horticulturists to grow many plants in the shorter duration, and has helped them to earn more profits. Artificial vegetative propagation has also helped in the developing of new variety of plants. Stem cutting, layer and grafting are preferred mean of vegetative propagation. So some of the most important methods are step cutting, layering, and grafting. If you want to learn this, you can go search on my videos. I have detailedly explained about this. Next, advantages of asexual reproduction. What is the advantage? You have learned many modes of advantage asexual reproduction, right? So now, what are the advantages of this? Why we are learning, and what are the advantages as compared to sexual? The organism does not tend to depend on another organism for carrying out reproduction. So there is no need of unlike sexual reproduction, there is no need to search for another gender, like male, if he wants to reproduce, he need to tend to search for a female, yes or no? But it's very common in asexual that only one is involved, one single parent involvement is needed. It is less time than sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction needs minimum 10 months or 9 months, but here asexual is very very timeless taking process. Very short very short consuming process. The offsprings are exact clones of the parents, so there is exact copy, like carbon copies, like that, just exact copies are being formed by this asexual reproduction. Desirable characteristics can be easily incorporated into the plants with artificial vegetative propagation. Desirable, it means if you through artificial vegetative propagation, but the best example is if you want a yellow rose, you can mix up the orange rose and even the red rose. What a new characteristic, a new color is being arrived. So these are very desirable characteristics which you want, which you can come with the vegetative propagation. So next we are going to learn about disadvantages of asexual. Obviously if there are some advantages, there will be damn sure there will be some disadvantages. A single parent involved, so there is no negligible chance of variation. So if you want some variation, it is not possible in the asexual reproduction. Why? Because exact copies are being formed. In the most cases, in simple organisms, the parent generation ceases to exist after asexual reproduction. So if you imagine about an amoeba, it divides, and after dividing, the parent amoeba, it will suffer a lot to survive for a long time. And asexual reproduction cannot give rise for biodiversity, which is important for healthy ecosystem. So it cannot rise that much as compared for asexual reproduction in order to maintain a balance in a healthy ecosystem. Asexual sexual reproduction and variations. Now at last we are in the sexual reproduction, which is a very important topic. As discussed earlier, sexual reproduction involves two parents. It means two gametes. Formation is very important. Gametes are special cells which are formed after meiosis is a process. These are two types of gametes, male and female gametes. The number of chromosomes inhabited in the gametes which are fused during fertilization, and the number of chromosomes becomes diopt. This is an important for maintaining the unique identity of a particular species which reproduces by sexual method. In sexual reproduction, the offspring get sets from genes from two different individuals. This led to subtle variations through subsequent generations. These variations accumulate over thousands of generations and finally may give rise to a new generation. This is how all complex organisms have evolved from common ancestors. So what is in the sense, in each and every reproduction, there is a common link. It means the DNA which is carrying the characteristics from the ancestors will tend to remain for years and years. That is what we have learned from this slide. And DNA replication. DNA replication is a process in which DNA makes a copy of itself. DNA replication happens during the S phase, synthesis phase of cell cycle. This is important because the daughter cells would need additional copies of DNA. The process of DNA application is a foolproof process, yet some allegations do take. These allegations may lead to some variations in the characters of daughter cells. So this is a DNA replication. It means fooling the replication of the process, which you will learn clearly. DNA replication, this is the model of a DNA, how it looks. And for better understanding, I kept that particular picture. Yeah, next. we're going sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So first you are going to learn about flowers and then you're going to learn about humans. So flowers tend to follow some modified process. So this is a leaf, this is a flower. So here you can see a small bird, a bird grows, the size is growing and then it turns to open its petals and then it arises into a new adult flower. So there are distinct phases for it. So here you can see I have kept this slide is very important. I mean that there are many words which you come across only during the 10th. And yeah, these are various I meant that parts of flower, and the outermost clasps. The outermost roll of the flower is called clasps. It is composed of green leaf-like structures called sepals. So these whatever, this is the outermost thing which you found when, if it is a bird, if you see a bird, what is that outermost thing? I'll show you. So here we go. Here this is known as clerk. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sepal, I'll tell sepals. So here corolla. The second whorl of the flower is called corolla. It is composed of colorful leaf-like structures called petals. So petals are nothing but, they are nothing but I'm sorry. So petals are nothing but they are a colorful, attractive part of the leaf, which you all know. Petals are colorful, so insects and birds tends to attract. Even not only them, we also obviously we human beings also tend to attract, but not for pollination, right? Insects and birds tend to attract for pollination. Androecium. This is the third whorl in the flower. I don't know if you know what is its pronunciation or not. Okay, whatever. It is composed of first stamen. Stamen is made of central stalk and anthroids on the top. Anthroids produce pollen grains, which are very important. Pollen grains. Pollen grains are male gametes, and glycogen. This is a whole center in the sense this composed of swollen base and called ovary. Sphendrum style stands upright on the ovary. This has flat top called stigma. Ovules are inside the ovary. Ovules are called female gametes. Pollen grains are called male gametes. Ovules are called female gametes. And the next thing is, here's a picture of a flower which is cutted on the half side. Here this is ovary, this is a female gamete, and a pollen grain, this is the male gamete. And stigma, flat form for pollen grains to land. Here the pollen grains will land so that they will get injected near to the ovary. And here wall of ovary, cavity of ovary, nucleus. I think so you all know this because you have learned it in your previous classes. Petals, another side of pollen production. Fragments, these are fragments. I think so you all know. Style supports the stigma. This is a support like a stem for a plant. So green, okay, sorry, I'm sorry, okay. Green sepals, these are the sepal which we have learned. They are leaf like structures. Here you see pleasant, this is also a very very strengthened part. And receptacles, these are all which these particular things, they give support for the flower to stand upright. And now coming to next, pollination is also known as reproduction, but pollination is a particular term which we use in this I'm sorry, which we use in this particular reproduction in flowering plants. The pollen grains, when they transfer to stigma, so fertilization can take place. The transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is called pollination. If the pollen grains are the same flower or the same plant, the transferred to stigma is called self pollination. Again, in pollination, two types are there: cross pollination, self pollination. So if the pollen grains fall on the stigma of the same flower, it is known as self pollination. And if the pollen grains are fallen on the stigma of another flower, it is known as cross pollination. And it is from the perspective of variations, many agents help the plant in cross pollination. Examples are very important, like insects, animals, including humans, air, water, etc. Insects are main pollinators in the plant kingdom. Very most example is butterfly, which you all know. And also birds are also okay. Butterfly is very important. Fertilization. However, we got here fertilization in flowering plants. The fusion of male and female. I think so. You're getting bored, but here onwards you'll get a very interesting thing. Fertilization. Coming to fertilization, the fusion of male and female gametes is known as fertilization, which you all know that. The product of fertilization is zygote, which you all also learned about. This undergoes several mitosis and develops into an embryo. Subsequently, the embryo develops into a new individual. This is a process and sequence which is followed from years and years, and which will be followed for years. Fertilization in flowering plants. After landing on the stigma, pollen grains absorb the moisture and germinate. It means it starts to grow. A pollen grain develops into a pollen tube, which on the ovule. The pollen nuclei transferred through a pollen tube after fertilization. Zygote is formed, which is finally developed into an embryo. So after this particular sequence, the embryo is formed, which means that a new flower baby is formed, a bird is going to be formed. Now, change in the flower after fertilization. What are the changes that are going to be happen? A, a cling and or coral weather on fall off, and so do stamens. The ovary turns into a fruit. The embryo turns into a seed. Once the seed becomes mature, the fruit dries up, and so the dispatch of seeds can take place. So obviously this is a very important process, like amoeba. In the same way, this is also a process. If you read it carefully, you'll get into it more, and it's very important and very easy thing. And yeah, here, structure of a seed. What is the structure of a seed? You all, I think so, within from fourth you are learning it. A seed contains embryo, some reserve food. Okay, some food which is stored in the seed. Obviously food is stored, like some plants tends to store their glucose or their glycogen in the, sorry, not glycogen, glucose in are the things which are like all the fat kind of thing in humans. Just like that, the glucose is stored in the some particular places, especially like fruit. Seeds is also one of the important thing, and it is protective covering, seed coat, protective covering. The reserve food is stored in the cotyledons. The embryo has two pointed parts. Their upper part is called flumble, which gives rise to a shoot system. The lower part is called radicle, which gives rise to a root system. Cotyledons supply food when the embryo needs it during germination. Growing process is also known as germination. And seed germination is the process by which embryo is seed kick starts a new life. And this is about a detailed explanation how a seed starts its life from a seed to a plant. Yeah, pollination, fertilization, seed formation, it is very important. See here. Here we can start from here. See here insects. Oh, I forgot it. With the butterflies, honeybees also very important pollinators. Butterfly, it starts to spread the pollen grains. They grow detached into the ovary, and here this pollen tube starts to grow, and which tends to form a new seed, and which gets detached again. This is a process which continues. This is a cycle. It's better to you draw it once so that it becomes very easy for you for understanding purpose. Reproduction in human beings. Oh my god, we have completed half of the chapter. Now the half of the chapter depends upon this reproduction in human beings. Puberty. Puberty and human beings are complex animals, which we all know. Obviously, who are listening to this video are also humans. Distinct phases and onset and sexually maturity, and this period is called puberty, which you all know usually starts from 10 to 11 years of age in girls and around 12 to 13 years of age in boys. It's actually it's at the around 18th year of the age in the girls and around 19th year and in the age of the boys. It means that in that between that particular 10 to 12 years, I'm sorry, 10 to 19 years, in that between or in that particular interval, in any time they may get matured. Girls from 12 to 18 years, any time 12 to 19 years, anytime a boy can be matured. That's the explanation. Since this years during puberty ends in teens. Teens nothing but teenagers and youth studying 10th, you are also a teenager. This phase is known as teenage. Yeah. Changes as in boys. Mostly they start growing like a coconut tree with a very dramatical change in height. Obviously voice becomes deep, and Adam's apple becomes protruded. It means that it starts to come out. Shoulders become broad and the body becomes muscular. It means muscles starts to form, very strong muscles as compared to your childish muscles, I can say. Facial hair becomes to grow like a beard and mustaches, etc. and etc. And a hair also starts to grow on the armpits and in other some public regions. And changes in girls, obviously voice becomes thin and sharp. It becomes thin and sharp. In boys it becomes broad and deep. Shoulders and hips becomes rounded. In the boys it becomes broad, but in the girls it becomes rounded. Breast gets enlarged, and hair grows under the armpits and in some public areas, which is common in both girls and boys. Sexual dimorphism, the physical disappearance in a male and females of species which gives them different appearance is known as sexual dimorphism. It is a particular thing, I can say that it is a difference between a childish and a mature person. And secondly, sexual characteristics. Features which are highlighted sexual are called secondary sexual characteristics. Oh my god, secondary sexual characteristics is nothing but which we have come across the characteristics which are changed from a childish to a mature person. Yeah. Male reproductive system. The male reproductive, and here the reproduction in human beings is also divided into two particular phases: reproduction in male and reproduction in a female. And the male reproductive system in human being composed of following parts: testes. These are pair in the sense two testes which lie on the skin pouches called scrotum. Scrotum is subtended outside the body, which is protruded outside the body, which can be seen outside, below the abdominal cavity, under the stomach. This helps in maintaining the temperature of the testes below body's temperature. The main intention of particular pot is to balance the temperature and allows and maintains the temperature for the testes. It is necessary for optimal sperm production. It is very important for the production of sperms. Testes primarily serves the function of sperm production. Sperms are the main gametes. Apart from that, testes are also produces testosterone. Testosterone is also called as male hormone. Testosterone is called as main hormone, which is responsible for developing certain secondary sexual characteristics in boys. Vas deferens. Vas deferens is a tube which is a carrier of sperms to the spermal vascle. Spermal vascle. This is a place where sperms are stored. Segregation of spermal vesicle and prostate gland add to up to the stamen. Pensis. It is a muscular organ which serves the generate urinary functions. The urethra works as a common passage for the urine as well as the sperms, which is the anus, which we can say. Female reproductive system. Here you go. Very important part of this. Uterus, fallopian tubes, ovary, vagina, this is very important, I can say, compared to male. And it is in the boards mostly they ask you female, but if you're failed they may ask you, but female is very important for the students who are taking by PCA. In the sense, I am not saying that male is not more important, but the majority of the bits comes from female reproductive system. So concentrate here, students. So uterus, it is a pearl like shaped hollow muscular organ. Uterus is place where embryos gets implemented and develop into a new baby, where the baby starts to grow into an embryo starts to grow into new baby is in the uterus. And the walls of uterus provide safety and nutrition for the growing fetus. Fallopian tubes, these are tubes, two pair each side of the uterus, and fallopian tube ends in a finger like structure called fibula. This word, and you have to remember it, it's very important. Fertilization happens in fallopian tubes, which you all know. Ovary, these are two ovaries near the each fallopian tube. Ovaries produces the eggs of female gametes. All the eggs are produced by ovary. And when the female child is still in the womb when the child is still in the womb, one egg matures in each ovulation cycle and is released from the ovary. The egg is caught by the phlegm and transferred into the fallopian tubes, so that whichever the matured egg is there, it transferred into the fallopian tubes. Vagina, mouth of the uterus, opens in the vagina. So this cervix, mouth of the uterus, opens in the vagina. Vagina is a muscular tube-like organ which serves as a passage of sperms, so that the sperms enters. Also, it acts as a canal during the childbirth. When the birth of child takes place, the child comes up out from a canal called a vagina. And yeah, next we are going to learn about male reproductive system diagram. Here you can see bladder, urethra, prostate, rectum, anus, testicular, penis, urethra, foreskin. This is known as foreskin, which allows the temperature for the sperm formation and storing of sperms. Very important. If needed, you can draw it. It's very easy. reproductive health, and human beings are different than are different than any other animals because they have power of thinking. Yes, they have to obey certain moral values and need to behave sensibly in most of the aspects of life. Being of puberty does not mean that a person is physically ready to process of reproduction. Yes or no? For human beings, reproduction involves more than just producing an offspring. As an act of sexual has a potential of fertilization, so taking care of concepts becoming important. Moreover, than an act of sex also has a potential of creating many sexual transmitting diseases. Example: STDs are goners, herpes, AIDS, syphilis, hepatitis. AIDS, hepatitis are incredible till date. Many are going through these particular dangerous sex acts, and they are many are suffering from AIDS, hepatitis, which can't cure. They won't be cured. Even the curable stages are also being seen, not only physically but also physiologically. Not only physically but also mentally, it gets very very it becomes very dangerous. So please take your, I mean, this lesson, it is very important for you all, guys. Reproductive health involves preventing the changes of STD stages and preventing unwanted children. Reproduction health means a couple should be able to enjoy the reproduction phase of its life without taking the burden of genetic family, which is very important. That's about this chapter, reproduction. I hope you understood it. Thank you, and please do subscribe for my channel. If you like this video, have a thumbs up, share for your friends, and don't forget to leave a comment. How did I explain it? Thanks for watching Master Tutor. See you all in next video.